Renee, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we're going to get into a lot of things, but one thing really sticks out from what we've been talking about recently is how do you go from this criminology mindset to an
Wow.
acting mindset?
Well, I mean, I that's a very I went to school for criminology, straight from high school. Like I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Like I liked acting, but it was by no means it was going to be a profession. So I did what I liked doing, which was like crime and reading legalese and doing all that kind of stuff. So I got into I went to York University for crim, and in my second year, we got into York went on strike, which apparently they do a lot. They like to strike. They're a striking university. Love them, but it is what it is. And during that strike, I told my dad, I'm like, yo, dad, like, I was like, what, like 19 at the time. I'm like, hey, dad, by the way, like, I'm not coming back to York. I'm going to go act. I'm going to drive my Rust Edition 1996 Honda Accord, and I'm going to drive it to LA. So peace. And he like the look on his face is just like, what have I done to deserve this as a father?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, no, obviously not.
Yeah.
So you're going to finish your degree and then you can do whatever the hell you want. So I took his word and I'm like, all right. So I finished my degree and then went on to try to establish my career, not knowing anything about what I was getting into. And then looking back, I'm like, Jesus Christ, if my kid ever said that to me,
Yeah.
like not knowing anything about money or visa or paperwork or like, how are you going to live? I would have been a very interesting test as a father.
Absolutely. And this is such a great way to start because really, no, really, because you've really got right to the heart of it, which is like the shoulds, what we need to do, and the burning of the shoulds in our lives.
Yeah.
And this other huge deep layer, which I can 1000% relate to in your example, is the Latino dad, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's like a double whammy here.
Oh, yeah. Like unconditional love, tough love, support will always be there no matter what time, and he won't be afraid to, I'm sure you've gone through the same stuff, and, he won't be afraid to tell you how it is, he's not going to sugarcoat it, because like, especially like an immigrant Latino dad, they've been through the ringer. They know hard work. They know what it is to struggle. And they know about life. And so like, I feel like that when they are looking at their kid who's super green and has no idea about real life, they don't take the cautionary side. They just like tell you how it is. And I'm so grateful that I have a dad. I have a dad who's present. To this day, like my biggest supporter, but he just wanted me to do it the right way, and I have like nothing but love and so much appreciation for both my mom and my dad and being so supportive in my life. Was your dad the same, different?
It was it's actually, as you're saying that, it's interesting how it's a very different situation. In that he was very supportive. He had all of the good attributes, but we also had a very difficult relationship too. It took me a while to get to the point where I was actually, he meant well, and that's why, as you were saying that story now, as you were saying that story of him asking you to stay in school, I can understand it now, right? Because a lot of sacrifice and effort has been made on their part.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
you, for us, to give you an opportunity for a better life, and to see that potentially just be thrown away on a whim without the lived experience. For me, that makes so much sense now in hindsight.
Now.
Yeah.
At the time, it's like, what the hell, man? Like, get out of my way. This is what I want to do. Right. But now that we're, adults and know what it is to pay rent and know what it is, know the value of a dollar, I 100%, if, when I have kids or I have nephews now, and, if they were to ever say, dad, uncle or dad, whatever, like, I want to be an actor. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You definitely don't want to be an actor, and if they keep pushing and they end up working, finding their own route to do it. Sure. you know, like, but I will 100% discourage them because it's not a life. There's way harder lives out there. Okay. I'm not trying to be melodramatic or victimize myself here, but like, it's definitely not for everybody. And it's a very misleading life as well.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. How was it tell us about the journey to get to this point, right? The lived experience I just told you about, where
Mhm.
now I look back on it, I'm like, well, now I get it. But you have to, you know, try, test, repeat, fall down a few times before you
Mhm.
get it. So what
Yeah.
was that process for you?
Oh, it's, you know, it's still to this day. Like, it is something I think, you know, I could literally spend 2 hours talking about what it means to really be an actor and have a career as an actor. Um, but we're not going to get into, we don't have time. What I will get into is the notion of sacrifice,
Yes.
you know, and we use that word, uh, we throw it around like, oh, well, you just have to sacrifice, you just have to sacrifice and you'll be fine, you know? Well, the fact is that in this industry, if you sacrifice everything that you have, you sacrifice everything, that still doesn't guarantee success, right? You have to sacrifice not only money, not only time, you have to sacrifice availability. And what do I mean by that? Like, let's say one of my brothers is getting married, right? And he's getting married. He's going to have a summer wedding July 5th. Just throwing out a date there, right? He's like, hey, man, like, I want you to be my
Am I
best
invited? I
man.
want to go.
I don't have a brother. This is totally fictitious. But if I had
It's gonna
one,
be a great wedding. I
you would
can't wait.
totally come. 100%. Like, I feel like you would already like upgrade to groomsman already.
Okay, amazing.
Not just an invitee, groomsman.
I love the upgrade.
Right off the bat. And you know, we look alike too, so you can
Yeah, exactly. I'm
be
part of the family.
Uncle Federico. You don't know him?
I love it. I love it.
So, yeah, let's say, like, you know, we have my brother's having a summer wedding on July 5th, right? And he's like, and this is July 5th of the year before. And he's asking me, hey, can you make it? I don't know. Well, what do you mean you don't know? Right? Well, I don't know. I have to wait to see if I'm going to be filming something because I'm not at the point in my career where I can say no to a project that could either potentially change my life or pay the rent.
Yeah.
You know? So that's just a small example. You know, I surround myself with a very small number of people.
Okay.
And the reason that I do that is they know that whatever situation comes up, they know what kind of life I live. You know, and again, like, I don't want to get too victim-y. I'm not a victim. Well, we can probably get into this, but I'm like super
Yeah, totally.
privileged
We're
and
getting
blessed.
into that a bit
I'm
later.
so blessed to even be sitting here and having
Yeah.
the opportunity to talk to you.
Yeah.
But the fact is, the number one ability is availability. So you really have to be able to be available at all times. So I have to surround myself with people who understand that. And I don't really want to be explaining myself and be like, well, man, like, I can make it, but I can't make it, you know, I might not be able to make it. So, that's one of the sacrifices. Also, like, a family, you know, like I feel like I would have probably started a family a long time ago if I was in any other career, but it's something that I've postponed because I want to be ready and stable and have 2 feet on the ground, for when that time comes. You know, it's like these things that, maybe like the layman doesn't see or doesn't know, but that's why, like, if anybody were to say, hey, I want to be an actor, you know, no, you don't. No, you don't. And I'm not even saying this like, oh, you know, it takes like a greater person to be able to do something like this. If I was able to do anything else but acting, I would. 100% I would. But there's this something, I feel compelled to be an actor. It's the only thing that, like, lets me, it's the only thing I can do. Anything else, I've tried. And
What's the drive that when you say that's
obsession.
the only thing you can do? Yeah.
Obsession, man. Like, what I've sacrificed to this point. If I were to quit now, I look back and I'm like, well, what the hell, man? Like, I did all that. Like, I'm going to be a quitter, right? Like, I talk all this game about, you know, what kind of career that I have and what I'm doing. And, you know, people come to me. You know, I feel like I'm a great person when it comes to helping others. Like, I know I can say what they need to hear in the moment. I'm a tough love kind of guy. Like someone's down and depressed, I'm not like, oh man, like, are you okay? Like
Yeah.
everything. I'm like, no man, get up. Right? Like this is not you. This is not who you are.
Hmm.
So I just ask myself, like, what would I be asking me? And what would I be doing? And I can't. I just can't quit.
So this is very interesting because a lot of the conversations on the show are about the turning point, the pivot, and a lot of them are anchored in people that have done something for a very long time, maybe 15, a full career, 10, 15 years, and then they realize that it's time to change, and something happens in their lives, whatever it is, a layoff, a major family incident, the world, something happens, right? And then they turn into someone different. That's still we're all the same person, right? But a reinvention, basically. But it sounds like you've always known, right? So I'm just curious about what the pivot looks like for you, because you knew even as you were doing that criminology career, the
Mhm.
degree. Um,
Yeah, I knew, but I had like this false sense of what being an actor was. You know, I was doing videos before videos were a thing. I was like the funny guy in my family. So I was like, well, yeah, man, like as soon as, bro, I don't have to work at it. Like I'm naturally talented and I'm super funny and I can do it.
hmm,
Right. It's obviously not the case. As soon as I finished my criminology degree, I'm like, okay, well, I'll move downtown in a year, probably be on a CBS show. Maybe like in 3 years, I'll buy my own home. Right? These are
yeah,
these
yeah,
are real,
sorry.
genuine thoughts, authentic thoughts.
Yeah.
That was my authentic self back then. Um, but what made me realize, like, what made me pivot was like acting became kind of like sort of an idea, and then it became a reality. And what happened was just the amount of rejection that I would get. Like I didn't, I at the time I was just above working for something. Okay. I don't want to toot my own horn, but like in school, I did very well because like it came pretty easy to me.
Hmm.
I would study like 2 days before an exam and still pull off an A minus, whereas like someone would be going to every class and be front row and get an A. Do you know what I mean?
Over
Like,
preparation.
yeah, there's so much preparation. So like I was like, I'm too cool for that, man. And like going to the gym, people would work out so hard and like not be able to attain what I attained because I was blessed with very good genes. And again, I'm not like trying to toot my own horn here, but like I'm just being real with you,
You're
right?
smart
Like,
and fit.
right? Like Jesus, hire me, right? Like I'm being like 100% real. Like I would go to the gym for a week and be fine. Whereas like if someone were to not go to the gym for a week, like they would lose out on all the gains that they had. So like all these things that came really hard to people came easy to me. When it came to acting, I honestly thought it was going to be the same thing, and it wasn't. And I remember this one particular
Interesting.
moment. I was like, okay, yeah, man, I'm going to start doing some short films, right? So hadn't booked anything, hadn't worked. I took like maybe one acting class, and I went on Craigslist and I looked up like any auditions, and it was a short film for Ryerson, right?
Okay.
So I showed up. I was like prepared. I had this thing. I showed up at the waiting room. I checked in. I'm outside, and there's like 5, 6 other actors waiting outside of the waiting room. I sat there and I looked around and I shat my pants. And I'm like, nope, not doing this.
Wow.
Went home.
Oh my goodness.
Went home. And then I'm like, oh my God, like, this is scary. I'm scared. Like everyone over there is talented, looks exactly like me. I'm not the only one.
Wow.
I feel like when you're not dealing with anybody in the industry, you think like you're so unique, right? But then once you put one foot in the industry, you realize, oh, wait a minute, there's a
more of me
million of
out
me.
there. Yeah.
There's really a million of me.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's interesting because it's that's another theme, recurring theme here is when you go on this new path as an actor, you also need to have that entrepreneurial spirit. Then you come up with this great idea, and whether it's like in business or whatever sector it may be, and be like, oh, there's another 50 ideas like
Yeah.
this out there. And what I always like to reframe is that no one can ever do something the way you can because of your life lens. right? So
What do you mean by
and
that?
by that I mean is I was actually having a call with a student recently who she reached out to me and she wanted some advice on podcasting and how to make your podcast stand out, how to make it different. And I told her what I say all the time, and what how I'm going to answer that question is that I'm a Latino that moved to Canada at a specific time in history, and I have that lived experience, and I can only that energy, only one person on the planet in that precise way can bring that energy to the projects I do
I
and to this
agree.
personal growth podcast.
100% agree.
No one, yeah, there's a thousand personal growth podcasts, but no one will be able to do it and put the signature on it, bring the guest on
Nobody
that
is
I will,
Federico.
yeah, that I will curate. No one can do that, and I think everybody has that in their own lives in whatever they approach.
I 100% agree, man. Like, you could look the same way. You know, we could grab 10 Latinos,
Yeah.
right? That all look, you know, have like, you know, tan skin and black hair and speak English and Spanish, and you get them to do the same audition over and over again.
Yeah,
Right? We're all going to be doing it completely different. We have a different aura. We have a
Absolutely.
different energy.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And yeah, you're 100% right. That energy is formed by like how we grew up and like, you know what we did as a kid and what we didn't do as a kid and how our parents raised us or didn't raise us.
totally. Yeah, you just shared that story of your father. I also have a Latino father, but it was a different dynamic, right?
Yeah.
It was I would characterize my relationship as more friction. Now, in hindsight, grateful for as I'm older, I'm able to reframe it in a different way, but it's different already, right? So
Absolutely.
so
Yeah,
everything.
no, and there was a lot of friction between like me and my parents, right? But now looking back, like you said, it was done out of love.
Yeah,
You know, it was done because they're looking out for me. And, you don't know what you're doing until you have to do it.
Mhm.
Right. So like, when I deal with my nephews or if I ever have a kid and they came up to me with the same situation, I probably act the exact same way out of love.
Yeah. No, I get that.
You're 100% right.
Yeah.
When did you move here?
Oh, I was 7 years old.
7.
7 years old, and so I've also I've had this conversation on here too. It's when I've had other Latino guests on, is that I've reached a point where I'm and I'd love your take on this, please. I always struggled to be 100% Canadian. Like I wanted to be. I'm proudly Canadian. I consider myself proudly Canadian, and I also consider myself proudly Mexican. But I'm 100% both.
Yeah, exactly.
What I meant to say there, I didn't quite articulate, was the struggle was that I wanted to be half.
Yeah.
This split, this beautiful split where I was like, actually, no, I could be really loud and boldly both. Why not?
Yeah,
It's the best
absolutely.
of both worlds.
Absolutely. Like what, your head, do you think in Spanish or in English?
I think in English.
Okay.
How about you?
It's weird. I think in English as well, but when I'm
Okay.
pissed, I think in Spanish.
When you're what? When
When
you're
I'm pissed.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you're pissed. I was
Seriously, man, like someone cuts me off on the road, I'm like, hijo de la gran, I'm like,
like, how old were you when you?
Okay, so I was actually born here. I was born in
Oh,
Canada. I
okay.
was born in Canada, but the timeline might get a little mixed up. But I moved back to Panama when I was like, I think less than a year old or maybe a year old.
Oh, less than a year old.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
So then I lived in Panama for 5 years.
So I knew this part of your story. I didn't realize it was that young. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
like, I was born here, but then like I moved to Panama like so young. I lived in Panama, I think it was like 5-6 years. And then I moved back to Canada, then to Texas, then
so
back to Canada.
you had the U.S. experience as well.
Yeah,
Interesting.
man, I
Okay.
do. Honestly, best experience of my life, bro.
Okay.
Honestly, I used to live in Austin, Texas.
Oh, I really want to visit Austin.
Bro,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, like Austin is a vibe.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not even talking about like
Great barbecue, right?
Oh, bro, if you ever go to Austin, Texas, you go to Rudy's. Okay, Rudy's barbecue.
Okay.
You line up, you get a tray, like one of those like cafeteria trays. No utensils, right? You get Wonder Bread, and then you select whatever meat you want.
Okay.
And they specialize in brisket.
Yes.
Have you had brisket?
Yes, yeah, but the one in Austin's, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And there's like levels of moistness. Okay, that sounded terrible, but like moistly, speaking moistly. You can choose the moistness of your brisket. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a must have
Oh, awesome.
when you go to Austin, bro.
Okay, so you've had the Latino experience in different places. When do you come back to Canada?
So again, like ages are probably a little bit off, but I think I was like when I was seven.
Okay.
I moved back to Canada, and I didn't speak any English.
Didn't speak any English.
Didn't speak any English.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And my parents told my teacher, they're like, hey, like he doesn't speak any English. If you can work with him, whatever. And then my teacher got back to my parents like 2 weeks later, like, are you sure your kid doesn't speak English? Because he is speaking it very well. So I caught on really fast. Yeah.
Yeah. The exact same thing happened to me. Fortunately, in Mexico, I had gone to the school where I had some exposure to English. I wasn't fluent at all.
Yeah.
But I definitely had the exposure to it.
Yeah.
And living in Mexico, I was born in Acapulco, which is
nice, man.
big tourist place.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of English around,
right?
And then add the fact that we're sponges at that age as children, and then I caught on quite quickly as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're back.
Wait, so you grew up in Acapulco? You were from Acapulco?
I was born in Acapulco.
You're born in Acapulco?
Yeah, I was.
I've been to Mexico City. I've been to El DF.
Do you love it,
bro? Okay. So this was like one of my favorite moments of my life because my dad was constantly, the reason that we moved around a lot is because my dad worked for a company and he had to be transferred all the time, moved different places. Like he was a software engineer. So during the 1990s, early 2000s, the software boom, the tech boom, right? AKA Austin.
Yeah.
But one time he took me on a work trip in Mexico City and we stayed in what's it called? La Plaza del Ángel.
El Ángel de la Independencia. Yeah.
Like
¿Zona Rosa?
La rotonda esa.
Sí, es la rotonda. El Ángel.
Ajá.
El Ángel, sí. El
Ajá.
Ángel.
And then we went to Xochimilco.
Oh, nice.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
And then the coolest part, we went to a Cruz Azul game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, so you really got the experience.
I really got the experience.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Cruz Azul what's the other team that's based out of DF? Is it Necaxa?
Oh, see, I'm terrible with the names. All I know is America and Chivas.
Okay, so I know I went to a Cruz Azul game and their rivals, I don't know who it is. I think it's Necaxa. I could be completely wrong and I apologize to our Mexican listeners. But we went to the stadium and I'd never experienced anything like this. We were in a part of the stadium, very small part, all Cruz Azul fans, right? And to my right, like 100 military officers lined up from like row 1 to row 30. To my left, same thing.
Wow.
All with rifles, right?
What's happening?
Because it was a massive game and they know that like shit goes down between the fans.
Yeah.
So I was like so excited and like but like so scared. But then we had to leave the stadium first. When they left, when the game was over, we had to leave first.
Okay.
Because if both supporters of the teams leave together, I'm assuming stuff used to happen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was, man, my time in Mexico was bomb.
It sounds like, you definitely got exposed to a few different things.
Yeah, and beautiful. The people were awesome. People were so nice.
I went back to Mexico for 2 years. I lived in Mexico during the pandemic.
Oh,
and it was just a perfect storm of circumstances. It wasn't something that was like planned. It was just like a lot of like the life circumstances that were happening at that time. And my intention was to go for 4 weeks. That turned into 2 years.
Yeah.
But I needed that. To.
How was that? Did you have how did you feel getting back to Mexico after living in Canada?
Well, it was a yearning that that felt unresolved. And I realized that it was something that was just kind of there, constantly kind of having been displaced at that age, right? That there was a longing to go back to my country and my people. And I had to kind of really immerse myself in it. And then naturally, once I satisfied that, that craving, I guess, then and I reached that place of 100 and 100% that I was talking about earlier, then I was ready to come back.
Did people?
But I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't had those 2 years in Mexico.
Like that, yeah. No, go on. Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, because and for lack of a better expression, it completed me, and I'm by no means done. I have a lot of completion to do still, right? We're always learning and shedding, and there's going to be a lot of challenges, which I want to get more into your challenges too. It's but I feel complete in the best possible way that I can be at this point, knowing that there are more challenges ahead, and that nothing's ever really perfect, right?
Did you feel refreshed?
It was just going back to that craving, basically.
Yeah, there's something in there, right?
There was something that I satisfied, basically, and if I hadn't done it, I would have felt that emptiness still. Does that describe?
Yeah. Like anytime that I go back to Panama, there's something in my soul that feels completely filled when I go to Panama. You know, whether it's just even going to, it's going to be like the most random thing, but there's a pharmacy in Panama called Farmacia Jarocha.
Okay.
Right? That's like the Shoppers Drug Mart, right? You can pretty much get anything there, like whatever. And as soon as you walk into the doors, the smell of the fragrances, you know, it means nothing to you, obviously, but like to me, it just like exactly.
Yes.
Like it brings, it's like,
yeah.
You know,
I
love that. I miss it.
No, that's such a great, you've painted such a great imagery there, because there's this thing, and I associate this with Mexico too, but coming back to Canada, I associate it with Canada as well. You know, at first I thought it was one-sided, but once I spent 2 years in Mexico and started to miss Canada, I realized you can have that experience with any place that you spent a lot of time in.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the smells.
Yeah, man.
It's the smells, right?
The smells, the sounds. Like
the sounds, all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like getting back to Panama, like Panama driving is a controlled chaos. And I'm sure that's everywhere in Latin America, right? Like, you know, and what do I mean by that is like someone cuts you off and you don't get mad. You know, like people just, you know, lanes are a suggestion. You know, they're not rules. They're just friendly suggestions. You know, and if that were to happen here in Canada, like I would lose my mind. But then when I go to Panama, it happens all the time, and I'm like,
I went to Panama for a very short trip.
You
short
did?
Trip. Only once, once, and I'm almost ashamed to say how short it was, because it was for work. Okay. And what I would do, I used to be in sales, TV content sales and distribution. So I would sell television shows internationally, and Latin America was one of the territories I managed.
Right.
And in Panama, so I would go around to the different countries and do a sales presentation with the television channels, and so I went to Panama. But because it was a sales trip, and I had to do like 3 or 4 countries in 10 days. Literally. Jeez. It was, or whatever it was. I had to maximize my budget working for the company, right? It wasn't just like going on holiday.
Right.
And so and I went to Panama, and it was, I think, 2 days or 2.5 days or something like that. So I only got Panama City, and I went to, it was a hotel vibe.
Yeah, and I get that, but
it felt a little like I loved it. But if I was doing the business experience, so it did feel like I was coming like in Miami or something like that.
Yeah, it's like a mini Miami.
It is. Yeah,
like I implore you, man. You should totally hit up Panama. Like Panama is. Panama City is beautiful, but then you have like islands and mountains and nature. It's beautiful. Like honestly, you should 100% go. And the people are dope. Obviously, we are. So
the people are amazing, and it's that Latin American, not brotherhood. You know, the fraternity. Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, that was good to go down the Latin American experience.
Good. Honestly, I haven't talked about Panama in a while, and I haven't talked to like people like us, you know. We're kind of like I'm not going to speak for you, I'll speak for myself. I'm kind of like a mercenary. And what do I mean by that?
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Like, you know how mercenaries like have no flag?
Okay.
right? Like they fly their own flag.
Ooh.
You know, so like in Canada, I am Canadian, but like I don't feel 100% Canadian,
Oh.
right? But I'm also from Panama, but I also don't feel 100% Panamanian. So it's like I'm kind of like this mix of my own, like you said, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm literally like exactly what you said. But what I find interesting is that no matter what country I step into, like they know that there's a sprinkle of something else, right? So like people, you know, I'm Canadian, but everyone knows, right? Like, okay, well you got something else, right? You obviously don't look like the typical Canadian, and you don't act like a typical Canadian, whatever. And in Panama, you know, I might look like a Panamanian, which actually ironically, I don't look like a typical Panamanian, even though I'm 100% Panamanian. When I'm there, people are like, yeah, you don't live here. yeah, you're not from here, you know?
Yeah, see, I'm so happy you brought this up. And for, you know, people that have watched the show, listened to the show, there's another big saying in Spanish, and you probably heard it, is ni de aquí, ni de allá.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's almost kind of, it comes up every episode. But what I love about that saying, every episode that I interview with someone from Latin America, there's this like disconnect, exactly the way you just described it. But what's actually really interesting about that is that it's actually really kind of universal, because it applies to anybody that has left a country and has come to a new country and is trying to build something new.
Yeah.
It just there's always that. And actually, even when you in personal growth spaces, even people that are fully Canadian, that have been here their whole lives, sometimes when your passion and career are not aligned, there's sometimes that pull as well.
Yeah, man, 100%. I feel like that's something that we don't. Like, I don't know about you, you know, maybe, well, yeah, you definitely talk about this a lot more than I do, right? But like, you know, in my circle and amongst my friends, like that's not a topic of conversation, you know, that I can have. Even my sister was born in Panama, right? And she was raised in Panama. And like, when she goes to Panama, she like 100% blends in, you know what I mean? So it's like me and her differ in that part. So I feel like it's, if it was something that we talked about a little bit more, I'd realize, oh wait, this is actually not completely unique to me.
Yeah.
Everyone goes through it.
Yeah. And the more we talk about it, the more it breaks down walls.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah. So I mean, I want to get into the, you know, as an actor on this journey, there's been a lot of resistance, a lot of struggle, especially, you know, the like in sales. I just referred to my sales career. There was I would say it was 99% rejection. And I imagine from what I've heard of the acting experience is very similar.
Yep.
Walk us through the challenge and resistance phase of this career you've chosen, this vocation.
Career. Yeah. The way that I would describe it to people is you go for a job interview, you prepare for a job interview, you know about the company, you know who, you know, you do a little bit of research of who's interviewing you, you get your haircut, you dress up really nice, you do your homework, you do the interview, it goes pretty well. You think it went really well. And then a week later you find out, oh wait, we found somebody else. So the only difference between that and acting is you don't hear if you don't get it, right? You only hear if you do get it. You don't hear if you don't get it. So it's like this perpetual cycle of not necessarily rejection, but like this indifference that you slowly start building inside you, where it's like you have to learn how to throw it away. And I feel like that's something I didn't realize it until I'm talking to you. I feel like that's something that has really something that's changed in my life over my career as an actor, is the amount of indifference that I have and that I carry on, that I carry over into my personal life.
Oh, wow.
Like as a person, like I am so indifferent to so many things.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like I'm the kind of person now that if I were to get shot, if I'm walking down the street and someone shoots me in the shoulder, I'm like, damn it, I got shot. All right, well, all right, gotta go to a hospital. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that sense has completely disappeared from me.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I'm like touching my shoulder, making
sure you haven't been shot. We don't want to like any.
I'm okay.
Okay. okay, I want to go deeper into this. How do you feel about that? Having that feeling, like, what are you doing to address that feeling? Is it a positive thing, a negative thing?
There's pros and cons. There's
Mm-hmm.
pros and cons. A big pro is like I'm not a person who panics.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very solution based person. If something were to be happening, I'm like, okay, like, all right, let's figure this out. This is what's happening. All right, so let's okay, option A, option B, option C. Like, let's figure this out. The bad thing is that it can kind of separate me from my feelings sometimes.
Protection mechanism.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I remember when I was so green in the industry and I'm like, I'll do an audition. And I'm like, well, I'm the guy. I'm so excited. I'm like, I can't believe I got this audition. And I would be refreshing my email and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so thankful. I'm so great. I'm so glad I'm doing this.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was like a little kid in you. And then over the years, I feel like you just grow. Your skin just gets thicker and thicker and thicker. And it's something that you can't really prevent because it's just in you now. You just know how to discard things really fast.
You know what? As you say that, not to toot my own horn here, but I think something I've gotten really, and it's not necessarily a good thing either because it has pros and cons. I've gotten really good at being okay with being pissed off or angry at something.
Hell yeah.
But at first I acknowledge it with myself, right? Because it's such a relief. I'm like, you know what? No, that was wrong. That's fucked up. That I'm angry with this, right? But then what I've gotten better at, instead of going on social media and saying that,
right,
I process it internally first, right?
Right.
And then,
you weren't that way before.
I definitely have been more reactive at times, for sure. Yeah, where instead there was the buffer zone between that pissed me off, that's wrong, and the time maybe I would express it was shorter. But I also went to the other point where I was like indifferent, where I tried to, oh, that doesn't bother me. But then I went to, yes, it does bother me. But then the reaction time was shorter.
Right.
And now it's kind of like a middle ground.
Right. For me, it does bother me.
Yeah.
100%. If I don't book something or whatever happens in my life, it does bother me. But I honestly, like, the process happens so fast internally that I don't have the energy to spend time pissed off about that.
Yeah, and it's also, it's part of your career too. It would be, I think, doing a disservice too if you let it, because you have, I don't know how many, like hundreds of auditions, right? Yeah. And if it is 99% rejection.
Thankfully. And that's another thing. Like, I should be, acting is a very tough industry, like, but I will preface, like, there are way harder industries out there. There are way harder jobs out there. I'm not saving lives. I feel very privileged to be doing what I'm doing today and being able to sit down and have this podcast. But yes, like it definitely erodes your emotion. It definitely makes you a little bit more transactional, unfortunately.
Interesting. This made me think a lot. No, thanks for raising this, because now it's made me reflect on my sales career. And that was 99% rejection.
Right. So like when you got a no, right?
I had to be indifferent too, right?
You have to go to the next person.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So there was different mechanisms in place at that point, because I was like, yeah, actually, this is actually like a great quote. I think that you reminded me of, because it was in sales, I came up with, I had read, what was it? It came actually, okay, the quote is try easier.
Try easier.
I'll unpack it for you. It's basically when you're struggling in sales and nothing's coming in, instead of going harder and like more follow-ups and like here, you actually try easier. Let me explain that. So basically, Joe Morgan, famous baseball Hall of Famer baseball player, I had heard it on a broadcast when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. He would always say this, that when he was in the hitting slump, he first would go and be like, oh, I need to, like try, like be better and so forth. And then he finally realized he would just, the more he relaxed and be like, just try easier, he got out of the hitting slump sooner.
That's so funny.
So I started to apply that to sales.
That's so funny. Yeah.
And it worked. But the funny thing, the reframe that I applied to that, to try easier, is that try easier doesn't mean stop working. Mm-hmm. Actually, it means you stop chasing that one lead that maybe you really want, but you start building other ones.
Yeah.
So as you're waiting, it's remarkable to try easier approach, because it ends up being way better in the end. Because just as you relax on one and then you plant 10 more seeds, the one comes back And then those other 10 eventually develop. All of a sudden you have 11 instead of focusing on the one.
Yeah.
So
That makes so much sense. I remember I heard this saying in amongst actors, if you want to book a job, book a vacation. Didn't know what it meant.
Okay.
If you want to book a job, book a vacation. I'm like, okay, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Right. So I ended up booking a vacation, right? Because, I'm like, well, I'm not getting any, haven't gotten an audition in months, not booking anything right now. I'm going to book a vacation.
Okay.
So let's say that this vacation is, again, I'm going to use my totally fictitious date, July 5th, right? July 5th is a vacation that
Brother's wedding.
Right. On the wedding. Yeah, exactly. Let's say I am going to go to my brother's wedding, right? I got to go
I really
to
want to meet this guy after.
well, you have to. You have to. He's a great dude.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the wedding on July 5th. I get an audition, right? And the project will shoot during that time. But I know that I'm booking a vacation. So when I do that self-tape, I don't give a shit about it. There's this aura of like, okay, I'm going to do it. But like I'm thinking of something else. Like my mind is elsewhere because my mind is on vacation mode.
Okay.
There's a certain vibe that you give off on this tape, on this audition. And it's universal for all actors.
Okay.
Because you don't care if you book it, you're going to book it.
Aha.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Yeah.
And it happens every time. I shit you not. Like I have booked maybe 3 vacations or like time. I've booked maybe like a week of time off in the last 10 years, right? Like a week off, like maybe 3 times. And each one of those times watch the water. Sorry. Each one of those times I book a job. And it's because when I do that audition tape, there's like this, I don't need this.
Yeah.
And I feel like especially, and I think this applies in everyday life, not just for actors, but like that sense of desperation, right? People can read that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure people have watched my tapes. The casting directors have watched my tapes. We're like, okay, this guy wants this way too much.
Yeah.
Like, dude, we haven't seen who you are. You want this too much.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I feel like that applies to everybody. When you want something too much, you might be giving off a bit of desperation, and that's always a turnoff.
Okay, so walk me through that because I don't know that part about the acting process. So when you submit the tapes, you get to follow up as the actor?
No.
Okay.
And for our listeners, maybe who have no idea what a self-tape is. Auditions post-COVID are now done in a method called self-tapes. Self-tape is you literally tape not by yourself, but at home. You do it yourself.
Okay.
And then you submit it remotely, right? So before it was like you would go to like a brick and mortar location for an actual audition in person. COVID completely changed that. So yes, to answer your question, when you do a self-tape and you submit it to your agent and your agent submits it on your behalf, you don't get much feedback at all. Well, no, actually you don't get any feedback at all. And it's kind of taboo. It's something I don't like to do where you contact your agent and you say, hey, like, what did the casting director think? Well, what's the point? You didn't book it. You know what I mean?
I see.
If you got an audition, you got it. That's good feedback on its own. Because if they didn't care about you, you wouldn't get the audition in the first place. So to answer your question, you don't get feedback at all.
Okay, so then, so this energy you said that you really wanted, where does that come from? Because in sales, it's like you maybe follow up once too many times, and then they're like, okay, this person really wants that sale, right?
Yeah.
So that's where that desperation thing comes in, and that's where the try easier approach is better, right?
Yeah.
But you're saying that this energy of they can sense you want it too much. That's in the energy of the audition tape.
I don't know. It's just something like at the time. When I'm doing these tapes, I don't feel like I emanate desperation, right? But apparently I do, and I feel like
I'm like, I'm emanating desperation.
Hi, I'm René Escobar Jr. I really want this.
Tone it down.
I want it more than everybody,
Yeah.
There is a sense of desperation when like you really, really want something, and I 100% empathize with that saying, and it really does apply with everywhere else. Like, when you go to a restaurant and I'm a server as well. Like I still have a serving job. One day I'll be able to quit that. When you go to a customer and you ask and you tell them, hey, by the way, man, we have our filet mignon. You can get that with lobster. It's really great. our psychology is as a customer, automatically we're defensive, but we're like, no, I don't want that. You're pushy. You know what I mean?
Mm,
It happens on everything. It's like, don't think of elephants. You're going to think of elephants. You know,
yeah.
it's just like how we are as humans, how our brains operate. If you push something on us, we're going to reject it. And so, like, if my energy is pushy and desperate,
Yeah.
it's completely something that they can sense,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm
Absolutely.
sure you have a lot of experience. Like when you did sales, you knew how to maneuver the room. You can't be too pushy, or else people are going to be turned off.
Well, there you go. That's you have to kind of start showing up authentically eventually.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Although there's interesting, we all have a persona
Yes,
that
we do.
and it's interesting. The topic of authenticity on the show is that um, authenticity doesn't necessarily mean not showing up in a certain way, right? Because you need to. It depends on the situation. You know, if you're a parent, you show up a certain way for your kids, or at work, or a wedding on July 5th. We're going. We're you, but so there's some sort of performance in our lives at all levels. I don't know what your thoughts are on
Always.
that. Yeah.
Always. Or if anyone asks me, do you think acting is hard? I'm like, dude, we're all actors. We
Yeah.
act every day. If you're having a shitty day and somebody asks you, hey, how's your day? And you say, yeah, I'm fine. You're acting.
Yeah.
Right. So like there's always a performative side to us.
Yeah.
And maybe you can help me with this. I've had like um, this inner battle of being genuine and being authentic. And I'm someone who I really do pride myself on being authentic, right?
Hmm.
I really do. But I catch myself literally like having these voices inside my head. And I'm like, wait, was that real? Was that authentic? What I just said, was that real? Was that
Okay.
authentic? And it happens so much. Like anything you can throw my way about that?
In terms of okay, what's the question? In terms of
Like
how
how do you go about being authentic without necessarily obsessing about being authentic?
Yes. Okay. And this is wow. That's how much time do we have? Okay. Everybody listen
Please.
to the past 100 episodes.
Yeah, tune in to episode 94.
You know the beauty about this topic is that everybody has such a different definition, a different approach to a lived experience about what authenticity is. And for me personally, not to sound very abstract, but for me, authenticity is alignment. And what do I mean by that? Okay, so it's alignment at a place in time. If I feel comfort, a comfort level at my in my home, in my city, with the food, the smells, you know, you said that you associate with Panama or whatever that place is, I just feel at peace, and it allows myself to show up in a way that is my truest self, with less performance, less filters. Self-aware. Obviously, you have to be self-aware. Authentic doesn't mean you're not self-aware. You're just not saying everything that's on your mind. That's not authentic either, right?
Hmm.
It's being self-aware
Yeah,
and
I feel like people have like this false sense of what authenticity means, and it's like speaking your brain on everything.
yeah,
I highly disagree with that because there's a certain kind of or is it decorum, you know, like that you have to show with people. Like you can't literally say exactly what you mean. And I know people that, you know, carry their emotions on their sleeve and they pride themselves on being like super genuine and authentic. I'm like, no, man, you're just coming off as a dick,
yeah,
you know, and no one likes that, you know,
exactly.
like you have to, I don't know how to describe it, but like, right? Like
Yeah, no,
I'm not
absolutely.
crazy, right?
No, that's exactly it. Yeah, exactly it. Yeah, and it's yeah. So for me, the way to describe it is that it's that moment in time where I'm in a place that I feel comfortable, everything feels aligned. And it could be Mexico, you know, it could be the smell of the beach and the sounds and the food and the people, or it could be here. You know, it could be here in Toronto in winter in the middle of January on minus 14. No, because
Minus 14, bro. Minus 14 would be a gift. I think right now we're
yeah.
like at minus 29 with the wind chill.
But the things I have all those years of that I've spent in those temperatures, all the
Right.
Januaries prior that I've spent, and so weirdly enough, I feel alignment in this on that super cold day, because authenticity doesn't mean it's all rose colored, right? It doesn't have to be the beach.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be paradise. It could be, there's different, there's weird, like I walked down to the lake the other day. It was a super cold day. I don't know, I'm crazy. It was just like,
No.
but it was just like I kind of found this. I felt at peace. I saw it, like, not to sound woo woo or anything. I saw like the beauty in this cold day. I was like,
That's hard,
I'm
dude.
gonna appreciate this cold day, because like there's so much to be grateful for.
That's hard. Honestly, like I respect that so much
Yeah.
because truthfully, dude, like, we can talk about our obstacles and we can talk about, the stuff that's really hard in our lives, but objectively speaking, we live in Toronto, right? Like, we have a roof over our heads. We have no issues getting water every day.
Mhm.
There's people that are actually going through insane times, and that's their daily life. And we forget about that. It's not our fault,
Mhm.
right? It's not my fault that like I'm surrounded by like all this privilege, and I just assume that you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so what I'm saying is like I really respect the fact that you can take in a regular day, right? Even a pretty cold day, and appreciate that. And I catch myself, man. I catch myself like not being able to do that.
Mhm.
Like grass is always greener. I remember like living in a basement with like 8 people and so many cockroaches and having no
I love
reception,
this story.
right?
Sorry.
Right?
Yeah.
And like just dreaming. My dream was to be able to go to the bathroom without having to carry a bag.
Mhm.
Okay, think about that. Like not having to bring my toiletries into a bathroom because it was a communal bathroom, right?
Wow.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, if I could just have my own bathroom, that would be awesome. Now I live in an apartment with my own bathroom, and
Yeah.
am I appreciative of that?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
no.
How did you get out of that chapter? Because I think that's wild. If you could kind of like give us a bit of, because when we were prepping for this, you told me that story, and it's wild.
It
It's
is
just
pretty
wild.
wild, man.
How did you get out of that?
Um, it was tough. It was tough. Like I was living in a basement, um, with 10 people under a bar. I had no reception, like no phone reception. So people couldn't talk to me, couldn't call me while I was living down there. I had no windows, so I had absolutely no sense of time. If I wanted to order a pizza, I had to get you can do this thing where you actually get a phone number that's connected to your data. So if I wanted to order a pizza, because I did have Wi-Fi, I would have to use this particular phone number to make a phone call to get pizza delivered to my basement, which wasn't my real phone number. Like flies like just hanging out in the ceiling while I'm taking a shower, cockroaches in the kitchen, living with 8 other people. Um, it was super tough. Um, how did I get past that? I I met, my girlfriend, who, we've been together a super long time. Like she was a very, very important piece of the puzzle. She came into my life and opened my eyes. And, I don't want to get too melodramatic, but she was just so important for me. So important for me. Um, I was so broke, dude. I can't even describe to you like how broke I was. I remember like being on EI, and that obviously not being able to pay the bills. I remember like walking outside the entrance to my basement and like going over lines, going over auditions, and like literally looking up to the sky, and I'm like, please God, like just let me book this. I will do so much good if you just give me this. And at the time, my family lives in Panama. Lived in Panama at the time. They now live back in Canada. And I remember the specific time where my dad was visiting from Panama to Canada. He was visiting me. And we went for lunch, and we had a great time. And then he rented a car, and he wanted to drop me off to my place. And I asked him to drop me off at a corner. He could not see where I was living. He could not see it.
Wow.
Like I would not let him see it, you know? And the thing is, like, I want to be clear. I have never wanted anything in my life or never needed anything in my life. My parents literally gave me everything I've ever needed. Like, I did not grow up poor. I did not grow up in poverty, but because of the career change, the career path that I took, right? I became, well, what Canada calls impoverished, you know? Like, if I were to, it's not abject poverty, like in Panama or other Latin American countries and whatnot,
Wow.
you know? So in that, I think that's also something that, that got me out of it. I'm like, well, there's people going through worse.
Yeah.
Like, I still have hot water, you know, I still have a kitchen. I still have a roof over my head. Okay. I don't have windows. Who needs to know if there's sunlight out there? You know, I wanted to bring this up. My parents, they raised me well. They gave me, like I said, they gave me everything that I needed. And they came from nothing. So they came from nothing. They built a life together and they gave me everything. But one thing that they instilled in me is to be grateful for what I have. And how they did this is when we were living in Panama, we would visit really impoverished places in Panama. And we would bring food and toys. And I remember specifically, I had a tricycle. And I didn't use my tricycle anymore. And my dad's like, okay, we're going to go to this particular neighborhood and we're going to give it away. And I'm like, Dad, no, that's my tricycle. And we went to that place and I vividly remember my dad giving this used shitty ass tricycle to this kid who was living in clear poverty, and the joy that that kid had from getting this used, beat up, like crappy tricycle. I remember that. Like as a kid, I don't remember a lot growing up. I do remember that. And I now talking to you, like I'm realizing that really did make an impact on me. At the end of the day, to answer your question, because I feel like I went off on a tangent here, what got me through is like there's worse. And this is really not as bad as it gets.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Do you have family you obviously have family in Mexico?
Yeah, but first I just want to say thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
That's
no,
really
thanks.
powerful.
Yeah.
And respect for your life experience and the fact that you've totally reframed gratitude as well, right? So
What's that?
Like you have such a new appreciation for gratitude.
I do, man.
Yeah.
I do. And I get caught up in like, oh, my life sucks. Like, why can't I have Johnny's life or Frankie's life? You know, look at them. And I'm like, shut up.
Yeah. Man.
Literally shut up, dude. You have everything.
Yeah.
I have everything.
Yeah.
Like, honestly. And sometimes in my head, I have to remind myself, you are not a victim.
Yeah.
You are beyond privileged.
Well, you've spoken about self-victimization at some point. Explain that.
Well, besides me, like super early in the morning, because I'm not a morning person, when I wake up, when my alarm goes off, I'm like, oh, I didn't get enough sleep, blah, blah, blah. Besides that kind of victimization, I can only speak for myself. I have been given everything in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think my story would change, like, if I grew up super impoverished and had nothing and I literally had to work for everything that I have. The fact is, my parents built the road for me to walk on. Well, we don't walk on the road. You know what I mean? They paved the path.
Yeah.
Right? My parents came to Canada with boxes. Boxes, bro. Like, and why am I able to like tell you this is because they knew. I feel like they had a sense that like, okay, we're going to give this kid the world. He better not grow up as a spoiled brat. He better not, or else, you know, we're going to have problems. They would remind me constantly, dude, what you have right now, you can't take for granted. You really can't. And so I feel like that's something that has been instilled in me since I was a kid. And like you said, like we absorb things as children.
Yeah.
Like we really do. You know, and I hope to one day pass that on to my kids.
Yeah, I love this. Thanks for sharing this. And I'm curious about how your definition of success has changed. And what was your definition of success before and what is it now?
It's a very interesting question. success changes for me every 2 months, every 4 months. I remember for a really long time when my parents were living in Panama, my whole family was living in Panama. Let me preface something here. When we lived in Canada, my whole family lived in Canada. Then my dad got transferred, or he took a job back in Panama.
Okay.
And I had the choice to go back to Panama with him. The reason that I said, no, Dad, like I'm going to stay here in Canada is because I told him, like, well, I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to be a successful actor. I'm going to be a super famous movie star. So I need to stay back. And they're like, okay, sure. Right. All right. They went back. What I didn't know is that I literally created like a pressure cooker inside me, because there were times where I didn't even want to call my family. I didn't want to talk to them, because the first thing that they're going to ask, and you probably know this, first thing they're going to ask of you, what? An update.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
How's the movie business? Are you booking anything?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to get into those conversations. And I felt like this immense amount of pressure that really, to me, like personally, kind of like separated me internally from my family. Like I wanted to keep a certain amount of distance from them because I had no updates. I had nothing, you know? I booked like a little shitty ass commercial, had no lines, right? Zero, no lines on camera. And they think that I'm like this massive superstar, but I know the reality, it's not. So my definition of success changes as I become more successful, you know? And I read this quote, and it really has impacted me because it really does summarize how I feel on an everyday basis. I can be happy, but not satisfied.
Okay.
Right. And I feel like that makes me grateful, but at the same time, hungry. Because, you know, I'm sure like you have a very successful podcast, right? If it gets even more successful, you know, let's say it gets picked up by Netflix tomorrow, right? You can do that for a year and be super happy. Guaranteed you're going to want to do something bigger and better, because that glass will never be full. We're human beings who always want more, you know, and that's never going to change. Like movie stars like Matt Damon and Leo DiCaprio and Edward Norton, guys that I really look up to, like they're done in my eyes. They've accomplished everything, but you can ask them, they're still hungry, right? So success to me it's ever changing. It's always ever changing, but I feel like I really need to focus on real success, inner success, life success, familial success, right? Like having a good relationship with my partner, spending quality time with my nephews, you know, like this acting thing, it's tangible. It's got an expiration date, you know, it's really like, it's everything and it's nothing at the same time, you know? And if tomorrow I can no longer be an actor, you know, how is my relationship with my family? How's my girlfriend doing? How am I working on myself? Am I happy? Am I confident in myself? Am I comfortable? You know? So today, because success is something that changes all the time. My definition of success is being okay in the in-betweens.
Okay.
In between these like milestones that I'm reaching, in between those times where nothing is happening, being happy. You know what I mean? Like those moments will come.
I like that.
Right? Like how do you deal? Booking a job is the easiest part of the industry.
I love that. Yeah, finding peace in the in-between.
Finding peace in the in-between, bro, and I'm still battling that. I have to catch myself. I have to like, how do I not become a constant email refresher? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like what's next? What's next? And I feel like we live in a time where like social media has made us,
absolutely,
you know, like we need to have more and more and more. So being present, trying to be present. And, you know, I'll take whatever advice you can give me on that, man. Like I've tried, you know, being away from my phone as much as I can and not multitasking. I thought multitasking was a really great thing, but I realized it's impossible. You can't genuinely multitask, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, again, there's no right or wrong answer. For me, it's just like it's a daily practice. I was gonna say daily struggle, but no, it's more like you have to work on it every day to be present. And for me, it's all about the morning routine. If
What's your morning routine like? Please, man.
yeah, and I just I don't I my phone's in another room.
How do you wake up? Like what? How do you have
Yeah, so I
physical
have
alarm?
Alexa. Alexa's my alarm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And but I kind of wake up naturally for the most part. I do set the alarm just in case, but I find because the sleep is so important, if I start the day off right, then that cycle, then I'm in a nice cycle where I kind of mostly go to sleep around the same time
Yeah.
and wake up naturally at the same time. But so yeah, the phone is left in a completely different room. So when I wake up, I don't have the urge to check the notifications.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a huge thing.
Yeah.
Huge thing. And I'm also I'm big on meditation. So not every day because life gets hectic or sometimes I have things to do, but I'd like to say I have pretty much 4 or 5 days a week.
Honestly, 4 or 5 days a week you meditate.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm talking about depending busy. I'm talking like all you need is a short period of time. If you have 5 minutes, do it. I usually do 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then on days where maybe on the weekend I have more time and I can get super relaxed, up to 20. But it's about at least 10.
Okay.
But if you start with 2 or 3 or 5 minutes, that's enough already. And so that combination over time, the phone, no phone notifications, the meditation. Once after the meditation, then I'm here world,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that's my morning routine. But without those things, I couldn't function. And the days where I skip any of that,
You're off.
the days
You're off.
the
It
days
feels like-
ruined. I get
yeah.
testy. I'm more prone to just get annoyed by something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
That's crazy, man. No, that makes a whole lot of sense. I've going back to what you said about the try easier thing. I always had the sense that like if I'm not 1000% obsessed with acting,
mm-hmm.
that I'm not going to succeed or that I don't want it enough.
Mm.
And I lived that life for a long time, and now I can honestly like really, very happy to say this. Like I know that that's not the case. As a matter of fact, I realized that being able to be centered as a human being is a necessity to be successful in anything. You know, like the want and the drive to be a great whatever will always be there. It will never go away. You know, but my mind plays games with me where it's like, well, René, if you're not thinking about that audition, right? Like, do you want it enough? Do you want enough? Like, I have worked on an audition for like 5 hours in a day. And then it's like alone time with me and my girlfriend watching a movie. And in my head, I'm just thinking like practicing my lines. Like, where did she go? Where did she go? Say, where did she go? You know, and I catch myself like not being present, but I'm working on that. I really am.
So tell me, what does reinvention look like, or what will reinvention look like for you? Because you've hit on a few important points there. You said you want to spend more time with your nephews. You want to work at being in the moment because the acting thing has an expiry date.
Yeah.
You know, and knowing that it has an expiry date is a really powerful, self-awareness realization. So there's going to be different versions of you in the future. What will reinvention look like? What does it look like?
Man, it's the reason that I can't answer that right away is because like I have like 85 answers. You know what I mean? Like my nephews mean the world to me, and I would love to be able to reinvent myself to a point where like I'm present in their lives, like maybe every day, I wish I would see them more often. I would love, reinvention would be like a career that is working for me instead of me having to work for it, like having things lined up so I can breathe easier, something like that. But I think you nailed it. The whole nephews thing, like they're my life, man. Mm-hmm. They're my life. And I know that they look up to me and think I'm the super fun uncle. And they call me out on like my shitty performances. Like they've watched a couple of my they've watched a couple of my
Are they
movies.
the critics?
Oh yeah, man.
Love it. Yeah.
I remember like being so proud of this movie that I did, and then I show it to them, and they're like, "Nah, it was okay." It's like, come on, really? It's like, yeah, well, you weren't really believable. I was like, okay, thanks, boys.
I love it. Well, Renee, this has been an awesome chat. And as we start to get to the end, we've talked about a lot of things. But
We have this feels like a therapy session, man. I appreciate you, man.
I'd love to give you some space now to just kind of reflect on the interview or anything that's made you think about, anything that you want to leave the audience with.
I feel like a problem shared is a problem halved. Yeah, that's a $1.50 quote right there. And again, I can't take credit for it, but it's true, man. I feel like this was obviously something that I wanted to do, to talk about my career and to talk about obstacles. But I feel like I got something completely. I wasn't expecting to get what I got out of it, which was like feeling. I feel a little bit just like a weight off my shoulders. I really do. Like, I feel like I can breathe easier. I feel like I just hit the sauna for half an hour.
Wow.
And I think that's a testament of you and how you ask questions and how you allowed me to talk. I realized I talked for a long time there, but I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you bringing me on here. I think you do great work. I'm going to take a couple of those morning hacks that you threw my way. Like, I'm not going to sleep with this, with my phone in the same room. I'm actually going to try that. And I'm going to try to be appreciative. If I'm going to leave with anything, it's what you said about appreciating that crappy day by the lake when it's like super cold, appreciating at least once a week, appreciate where I am. And, I think it's impossible to do that every day, at least for me right now, being honest, but learning to really appreciate where I am once a week and being like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I love that.
So thank you.
And thank you. No, I really appreciate you, and you've shared very openly. So thank you for showing up here. You really showed up. You shared a lot. You've inspired me too, to really appreciate that it could be a lot worse. It could be a lot worse, and I think that's a great takeaway for everybody. So thank you for being here today. Bro. And we end the show with 3 questions. The same 3 questions I ask every guest.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one, what is the biggest gift you've learned about yourself on this journey?
That I'm stubborn to a fault. I'm never going to give up. It's not an option.
That's your gift?
It is.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, man.
I love that.
Gifts can be bad. Gifts, you can open a gift, it's a bomb.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I love the reframes, right? The best possible thing could be the best possible thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the next one, what is the hardest truth you've learned about yourself on this journey?
Hardest truth. That I'm nowhere near the most talented person, and I'm gonna have to outwork everybody. There's actors who are way more talented than I am, and I honestly thought that I was so talented, really. And then I met all these actors that are in the same room with me, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. All right, okay, yeah, we're in the major leagues right now. Yeah,
that's a good one. It's good to know where we stand, and have that inner awareness.
Yeah, it was very humbling, to say the least.
And finally, what is your definition of authenticity?
Man, you have no easy ones, eh? Being able to sleep at night. That's huge for me. Like, if I can, lay my head on my pillow and say, you know what, like I was genuine in whatever situation, I was authentic with whatever situation, then I know that I'm being authentic. If I can't sleep well, or if I, there's that little, pit in my stomach, then I know I didn't go about it the right way.
I love that. That's a
You can
beautiful
use
answer.
that. You can use that.
Yeah, we'll use
That's
it.
for you.
Yeah.
It's all for you.
And no, thank you. That's a beautiful way to wrap up the show. And what I love about the last question is like everybody has such a unique answer to that. Thank you for being here. And
Thanks for that.
it was great
Enjoyed
having
having
you.
you.
That's today's show. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.